Hello everybody, I have a tutorial to share with you today. We are going to be making these peg dolls with arms. Look how cool that is. If you haven't made these before or haven't worked with them, they are a lot of fun, but they are a little bit more challenging in my opinion than regular peg dolls. So I'm going to walk you through this tutorial. It's actually pretty easy compared to doing the boy peg dolls of the same shape. So I'm starting out with some gray 100% wool felt. All these supplies are from A Child's Dream, and you can find links to all the products down in the description box below. So today we are working on a grandmother peg doll, and this is for the story The Giant Turnip, which is a Russian folktale. Now we've altered the story a little bit so that we can make characters for this story, and then we're going to use them as props along with the giant turnip that I felted for this story. And my kids so far are absolutely loving it. So for the grandmother, I actually love the way she turns out, and she's super easy, but I am struggling a little bit right here trying to figure out how to get that felt wrapped around, because I measured it for the base of the peg doll, which is cone shaped, so it's larger at the base than it is at the top. So what's happening is that I'm trying to kind of trim it down so that I can basically wrap the entire peg doll with that gray felt. Now it doesn't work out perfectly because as you wrap the neck part, you're going to end up with a little triangular piece of peg doll that's exposed once you wrap all the felt around. Now, this makes a lot more sense once you start working with the peg dolls. So I would say that if you are measuring off how much felt you need, measure from the top part rather than from the bottom part, and you will end up using an excess amount of felt, but keep all those scraps. You can definitely use them for other projects in the future, but that way you won't end up with some peg doll exposed. So you can see now that I've got that little space there that was exposed, and I just added a little extra piece of felt for that. It doesn't show in the end, but I just wanted it kind of cleaned up anyway, because I'm going to have a little cloak on her. Now it turns out that her cloak can be removable, but I'd prefer that my kids don't remove the cloak just because it has to go around over the arms and the little hands, and it's just kind of cumbersome, so I'd rather it always be on. But the way that I made her cloak, it could potentially come off. So I'm just experimenting here, trying to figure out how I want to do this, and I want to stitch her arm sleeves, but I decide just to use a little glue just to kind of hold it in place. And once I use the glue to hold it in place before I can stitch it, I kind of end up liking the way it looks, and then I end up just keeping it that way. And I just really like the way sometimes you don't really know where a project is going to take you, and then it ends up looking better than you could have imagined. So I just need to now fix this up, since this wasn't the original thought that I had in my head. I was just playing around with it. So now I just had to put in a little bit more glue to actually keep it in place. And her sleeves are a little bit too long at this point, so I need to trim them down. And this was a little bit tricky to do because I didn't want to accidentally trim her arms, which are the pipe cleaners. Now these peg dolls do not come assembled anymore with the pipe cleaner and the little wooden beads for the hands. They are all sold separately, and I do really like these pipe cleaners because they are made of cotton and not a synthetic material. And you do need to trim them down to the correct size. And I have some little wire cutters that I use so that I can protect my scissors from cutting through the wire. But it's really easy to cut through. If you've got an old pair of scissors, that would do just fine. And then I decided to add like a couple of little flaps on the side, and just kind of makes it look like, you know, as though she's walking or something. So I just grabbed a little bit of this wool, and it's just all natural and it's not dyed or anything, and I just kind of wrapped it around her head. I'm like, that's perfect. I don't want to fuss with it anymore, although later I kind of do. Now gluing down the hair is actually a little bit difficult because you don't want to have any smushed parts. Like if you start to press the wool into the glue, you're going to see kind of like it's going to be matted, and you'll kind of see the glue. So you have to be really ginger as you're working with this and kind of just be really careful. Otherwise you're going to end up with glue spots and it'll be matted in areas. So I want to give her a bun, and I really apologize for being partly out of frame for this. But basically I'm just going to wrap up that wool and kind of make it into a bun. And I love the way that she looks. She looks just like the grandma I would envision, her to look like. So now I just want a little accessory up at the top. Oh, but I can't decide which one I want. So in the meantime, I've got this little jar of seashells and sea urchin spines, and I grab a sea urchin spine and I put it in her hair like it's like one of those little hair chopsticks to kind of keep your hair in place, and I really, really like the way it looks. It has fallen out a few times. I just don't want to glue it in, but anyway, it's just one of those things. You just have something lying around and it kind of works, and it just all comes together. So I've got a variety of beads, and I've gone through a couple of them, and I finally find this silver one, and it's perfect. So I go ahead and I glue that on, and she's nearly done. I just need to put the arms on. I just want to say that these are definitely chokeable items for young children. If you want to do something like this, I would recommend just doing the peg dolls without any of these additional accessories. My kids are a lot older, and even though some of these might fall off over time and with wear, at least they're not going to put them in their mouth and choke on them. So just be careful about that. So my daughter snatched it as soon as it was done. I got it back so I could show you. This is what she looks like. This is for a set of peg dolls for the story, The Giant Turnip. You get a little sneak peek at those ones right there. If you want to see the rest of the tutorial in this series, you can tap on the screen right now for that playlist. And if you want to see some of the other things that we're doing in our homeschool, I've added a couple of videos that I think might interest you. And as always, you can see what we're up to on a daily basis by finding me on Instagram at Pepper and Pine.